Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, and today I am at the World Congress for Vertical Farming. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? And it is. Today was the first day, and we went on a trip to a vertical farm called Growy, and there were so many interesting things that we talked about and we saw that I don't want to give it a rushed podcast where I haven't fully researched it and I'm not half pissed in a hotel room in Amsterdam. So I thought I'd talk about one specific aspect of what Growy do and labelling of hydroponic crops and produce in general, because I think it's a really interesting topic. So they said that for their customers, they just put on that it's pesticide free and you don't need to wash it. They were the first only sort of, important points that they wanted to emphasize. Pesticide free, you don't need to wash it. There was nothing that said that it was grown hydroponically or on a vertical farm or had anything to do with the technology on the bag, which I thought was really interesting because the customer just doesn't care. It doesn't solve the problem when they're in the supermarket of how they feed their family or feed themselves. All they care about is it pesticide free? Not necessarily is it organic? Is it free of those nasty things that are going to harm me? And do I need to wash it? There's a pain in washing the vegetables and washing the fresh produce, and then having to dry it, more importantly. So, especially with herbs and things like this. So that's all they cared about. The company's name wasn't necessarily on the bag. On some of them it was. And that's important because as long as you can throw your ego out of the door and are happy to have the customer not know your name, then people don't care. So they're more than happy to allow the supermarkets to label it, just have a small label on it saying where it's from. And at the end of the day, customers very, very rarely read the packet text on a bag of lettuce, do you? You just know, is it lettuce and when is the use by date? And that was something that they emphasized there, was because it's vertically grown, it's not grown in a field where you get mud splatter and things like this. They had a massively long shelf life. I think it was about 16 days for their lettuce, and then, obviously less for herbs and microgreens. But that was really interesting. So customers just care about what it is, what it looks like through the transparent bag. So that's important. You have to be able to see the produce and the use by date. So there's three things. Interestingly, the farm today had experimented with completely paper or card-based packaging, but obviously the grow supermarkets insisted on there being some plastic there so you could actually see the crop, see the lettuce and the herbs. So obviously the customers just wouldn't buy it if they couldn't see it. And then obviously not having the name of the company there, not having saying grown hydroponically is an important point to consider if you're an investor in hydroponics, because people aren't going to pay a premium for a produce that's grown or manufactured with a really high-tech technology. So, if you were buying guttering for your house, you wouldn't pay a premium if you knew that it was produced with a specific new laser technology. You would pay more if it was, potentially biodegradable or UV safe and things like this. And so features and benefits is what people are buying. They're not buying the technology used for manufacturing. And that's critical for investors to understand, because yes, it might be a slightly better product when you look at use by date and stuff like this, but it has to compete in a one-on-one race with field-grown vegetables and things like this. So really interesting point there. But what really brought this home to me for a really interesting point was because on the way back to the hotel, I stopped off at a supermarket, my favourite supermarket, Jumbo. If Jumbo want to sponsor the podcast, I'm more than happy. They are my favourite supermarket in Holland. I had to go into a Jumbo to get their amazing deviled eggs. Went to pick up some salad from the salad bar, and it was all the Growy produce in there. So I knew the guys, Laura and people like that at Growy, weren't talking rubbish when they were talking about vertical farming and the intricacies of vertical growth, because when I went into my favourite shop in Holland, there was their produce and it was stacking the shelves. It was, that everywhere. And that's the important other point to consider when it's point of sale vegetables and herbs in supermarkets rather than, say, restaurant supply or markets or things like this, or direct to end user, is that often you can get a monopoly on a shop for the supply of a particular produce. If I wanted to go in and grow marsh samphire for, say, Sainsbury's, then I might be able to get a monopoly on just marsh samphire. But if I'm growing lettuce, then I'm probably going to be supplying a lot of the other mixed herbs and mixed veg and all sorts. So maybe not the best product often wins, but maybe the best distributor and best middlemen, things like this, who can get the advantage. As we talked about with the fruit attraction podcast, often it's the middlemen making the money, the logistics, moving it from A to B. Maybe that's why they get their big bucks, because they can secure the big contracts between the supermarkets and the producers. But who knows? Maybe we should do an in-depth investigation. Or if you know more, please let me know. Email into Hydroponics Daily, and another episode tomorrow where I'll probably give a brief overview of some of the talks we've listened to, and then I'll go into more in depth on specific subjects. Certainly learned a lot today at Growy, so that's very much worthy of one or two podcasts about the amazing robots and grow rooms they've got in that massive vertical farm in the city centre of Amsterdam. Thank you very much for listening, and until tomorrow, goodbye.